This is the Fort Lauderdale Antique Car Museum.
Right.
And this lovely lady is Shirley Stone. She is the owner of this marvelous facility. And what year, Shirley, did you say this was established?
It was 2000. It's 12 years ago.
12 years ago, so right around 2001.
Yeah.
Shirley and her husband have been collecting Packards for over 60 years. And they've been in Florida since 1935. And we're going to see some of their incredible collection. Beautiful 1932 Packard Model 900. It's called a shovel nose sedan. Gorgeous car. Every car here is owned by Shirley and her husband. No reproductions. These are all vintage signs from back in the day. They've collected them as the years have gone on. And there's oilers and greasers and various parts from the late 1800s through the 1920s. This is a 1916 Packard Model I-35 Town Car Limo. So much to see here. It's got a collection of shifter knobs as well. Another view of the Packard limo. From floor to ceiling, it is filled with displays. So many things to see. Very luxurious inside. It looks like a living room, circa 1920 or 30. And that's the coach. And up front, separated by glass, is where the driver sits. This is a very sporty 1917 Packard. A convertible coupe. A 1930 Series 740. And here we go back to a 1919 Model 335 7-passenger touring car. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. A little hard to see with the lighting in here, but you have a front bench for two jump seats in the middle, and a rear bench wide enough easily for three. Probably the precursor to today's minivan. A 1920. This beautiful Roadster. 1921 Packard Model 335 Phaeton. Beautiful car. And a 23 Model 126 Doctor's Coupe, it was called. Nice blue. Little place on the side here where the doctor was able to keep his medical bag or other equipment. Beautiful condition, every car. Just flawless. All kinds of grills, parts, lamps that used to be on the fenders to help light the way, gas lamps. This is a stunning automobile. Again, you can see the jump seats, front and rear benches, a large wooden steering wheel. Gorgeous car. Beautiful. And many things to see here. Vintage glass pumps. A lot of things for the Packard dealership as well. Packard frame with the running gear in place. Still in the main room. Haven't been able to get out of it yet. So much to see. Literature and equipment, displays, automobilia, parts. There's a 25 that they just pulled out of this slot. Ran beautifully, sounded nice. Old vintage Goodyear displays that they used to have at various dealerships and automobilia. Beehive corn syrup, Durham cornstarch, St. Lawrence Starch Company. Built on a Packard truck platform. 1915 Model E 2.5-ton delivery vehicle. 1925 paddy wagon. This is what the police used. It's a 1925 Packard, Fort Lauderdale Police. And this was the paddy wagon where the criminals would go. Set of handcuffs. 1 or 2 officers up front with a glass partition. And just hundreds and hundreds of automotive cigar lighters, cigar and cigarette lighters, part of a collection. Covers an entire wall of the building. There's hundreds of them. So many. There's the back of the paddy wagon. And there's more rooms. There's 7 rooms in the museum to go through. It's a nice old bar. Wish they were serving cold beer right now. Very nice. Again, there's so much to see. The museum goes on. This is a 1938 Packard Model 886. Packard 8, it's a commercial chassis, and it was a hearse, or the flower car, as it was known. Another room with about 15, 20 Packards in it. Huge room. Gorgeous. gorgeous. 1929 Packard in red. It's model 645 dual cowl phaeton. And there's actual pedal cars that they had for the kids, Packard pedal cars. Look at these beauties. Where would you ever find these? And toys as well, Packard toy cars. Each shelf is custom built to display them. (1926), 28. Beautiful. This one's a 1941. 1940. And again, parts, equipment, bumpers, chrome all over the walls, beautifully displayed. Beautiful. Everything's laid out so nicely. Here's a gorgeous two-tone green 1934 Packard, model 1100 sedan. 36 and a 1927 touring sedan. Beautiful. And here we move up something a little more modern. This is a 58 Packard Hawk. Supercharged V8, 289 cubic inch, 275 horsepower. Beautiful car. Original cost was $39.95 in 1958. Not an inexpensive car by any means. And here's a rare one, a Packard 1948 Woody sedan. Look at this. Beautiful. Beautiful yellow with burgundy wood inside of the golden ash. And here's a sleek streamlined one. It's a 1950 custom convertible Victoria. And there's a Packard Caribbean convertible. 1955. And this one is a 28 Packard tow truck. Wouldn't think you'd have a Packard as a tow truck, but here it is. And we got another room. A Packard fire truck. Amazing. Each vehicle's in flawless condition. The time and effort and money that had to go into restoring these vehicles over all these years. Many antique things in here. The doors are incredible. Look at the giant solid wood doors from room to room. And this is a 1909, one of the earliest vehicles. Gentleman's Runabout, it was called. Model 18. Right-hand drive. There's a room as a tribute to Franklin Roosevelt, FDR. Lots and lots of literature. Room set up as a library. All type of antique equipment everywhere. The walls are just filled with artwork, car parts, period items. Definitely recommend a trip here. The rooms just go on and on. I have the wonderful pleasure of sitting here in the Fort Lauderdale Antique Car Museum with Shirley Stone, one of the founders, and with Bob Jacko, who is the Chief Restoration Engineer. Shirley, would you tell us a little bit about the idea behind this museum?
Well, I guess it was all really a dream. My husband lived in New York, saw these beautiful Packards on Fifth Avenue. He was only about 13, and made up his mind to have a beautiful Packard museum of his own. And that's dream came true.
Well, obviously it did most successfully, and we thank you for it because you're preserving history for all of us to see and experience firsthand. Now, how did Packard come about being the marquee that you and your husband decided to collect? Was it just because of the style of the automobile?
He just fell in love with Packards, and that was the car he was going to collect.
And
no
what was
other kind.
Do you remember the first one that you two had?
The 25.
The
1921.
And when did this museum first start? Do you remember?
2001, I believe.
And how did you end up in Florida, your husband and yourself?
Oh, well, I came before Arthur with my family. My father fell in love with Florida and knew it was going to be a great place to live, to have a family. And so we moved down and pioneered, and of course we fell in love with Florida.
What decade was that you came down here? When was that you came down? 1935. Oh, wow. Incredible. Now the museum, when it started to take shape, how many cars were in your collection?
I think it was only about 6.
About 6. And how many now, Shirley?
39.
39 in about...
All in running condition because of my wonderful engineer over here.
Well, we'd like to ask him about that.
Yeah,
now,
you
Bob,
better ask him.
Give us an idea of what a day in the life is like of an automotive restoration genius who keeps these cars running.
Well, when you first come to work and you walk in the door and I turn the lights on, the first thing you're struck by is the wonderful visual view of all of these cars in half daylight. And as you turn the bright lights on, the reflection from all the cars, the smell of the fuel, the smell of the tires, the cars. A person that's involved with antique cars knows exactly what I'm saying. And so it brings a smile to my face. Where else can you go and walk to work and walk in and work on 39 Packards when back in the 1950s you were a teenage hot rodder and had been working on cars all your life? It's just a marvelous thing. And the biggest thing that we do is we try to keep every one of them running. And the worst thing for them is to sit and not run.
Well, I noticed you had taken several out while I've been here. On average, during a day, do you get 2 or 3 cars out, or even more than that?
No, usually not. Maybe one. The biggest problem, we're in a continual mode of fixing, if you will. And so we just finished 2 cars. Our newest one is a 1958 Packard Golden Hawk, supercharged. We just finished putting in the gas tank after we had the renew process on it.
Okay.
And I fixed the fuel pump on it and tuned it up, new spark plugs, and it's actually took the automatic transmission apart. We had a leak in there, replaced some O-rings, and got that fixed. So that's back in the museum. And then just after that, we pulled in our 1939 silver Victoria convertible. It's a V12, and the right front fender, the paint was deteriorating on it, so we pulled the right front fender off, took it and had it repainted. and we just reinstalled it here just before the 4th of July, just a few days ago, and I was back in the museum in the middle. So that was a challenge. We did that and replaced that fender without nicking the brand new paint at all.
That's the challenge. And
yes.
It's amazing that you could do all of this in-house. Now, that bodes the question, a lot of these vehicles are from the 20s, 30s. I see you've got thousands of parts. When you need a part for one of these vehicles, do you use something you have, or do you have to go find
Sometimes we do. For example, a couple of summers ago in one of our V12s, so we noticed that the cylinder heads, which were aluminum, had corroded poorly, because in one place we had a small, tiny pinhole leak, and I put my index finger on it and pushed right through.
Wow.
And so I looked around the museum, and lo and behold, we had two new old stock cylinder heads hanging on the wall.
Holy cow, and they fit.
So I took them down,
Wow.
looked at them, they looked fine. So we pulled off the old cylinder heads, put on the new ones, and it's running perfect again.
Well, this is amazing. And everyone who's watching this video, I will really encourage you, when you're in South Florida, make the trip here. It is an absolutely incredible, incredible facility. There is so much here you can't even imagine, and plan to spend some time. And what Shirley is doing here, what her and her husband have created, is nothing short of fantastic. And everyone who's a car enthusiast must make a trip to this location. And Bob and Shirley, I thank you so much for what you have done. Shirley, God bless, and I can't tell you enough how wonderful it was to meet you.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.